Has Anfield become one of those grounds where it's not as difficult as it used to be to go and play? Afterwards, Arne Slot said that he assessed the performance slightly differently to everybody else.
The aim is always to win, but we knew before the game how difficult it is to get a win against Sunderland, because they've been a team that made it really difficult for every other opponent this season. A team that only conceded 4 times out of 14 games, 2 goals. All the rest they only conceded 1. There's a reason for that, because our goal was a deflection as well. But we took the shot from 7, 8, 9 yards, I think. And they took the shot from 20 yards. I think this game, the way we played it today, we've played a few of them recently, and it always led to a loss. Today, at least, we got a point out of the game.
Liverpool travel to Leeds United next. That should be an interesting game. You were pulling faces during the course of that response.
Trying to work out what he was saying. I wonder what your impression of what he said was.
Well, I think he's trying to talk around the issues because he doesn't want to cause any more disharmony and disruption, because it's quite clear that they're not at it. I mean, you watched the game last night. It's another slow start. They wait to the very end before they start going for it. When they do start going for it, they leave gaps, and Chiesa has to come to their rescue and clear off the line right at the very end of the game. I think he's trying to tread a bit of a tightrope, really, because they aren't playing well, and some of the big players aren't playing well. How do you get that back?
I don't know. I'm trying to work out what I'm looking at myself. Listen, there is no shame against this Sunderland side that are a very difficult side to play against, that are full of beans, full of momentum, have no respect, and they're not going to Liverpool with any great awe in their minds about we're going to the wonderful Anfield and we're going to be beaten in the tunnel. And this Liverpool side are there to be having a go at. And the lustre has gone off them in the same way, to some extent, Man City's lustre has gone. People can think they can have a go at Man City. Previously, Man City and Liverpool were beating teams in the tunnel. Now they're not. Why these players are not performing at this level, why they aren't at it, to use your description, is beyond me, because that's a choice. If you're out of sorts and you're out of form, players have that. And you rotate players around and the next player comes in. But this is a malaise that seems to pervade the entire team. Some of the balls that Szoboszlai was hitting in last night. Look at the corner he took in the last minute of the game when Liverpool have got a corner to go to try and win the game. He can't even get it past the first man. That clearly, to me, I know it's necessarily an example people point at and say, well, that's a bit small-minded. But that's symptomatic of the malaise that runs through this team. They were lucky. I mean, the ball from the goalkeeper, from Sunderland goalkeeper, was a hell of a ball.
Yeah, terrific.
Alisson did wonderfully well to make himself big, and the Liverpool player getting back showed this kind of endeavour, commitment and focus that perhaps the rest of the Liverpool team should be playing for.
He always does, actually. They don't use him from the start, but he always comes on and tries to make an impact in the game. And actually, do you know what you mentioned, Szoboszlai? Szoboszlai's been one of their better performers over the course of the last season.
But he's catching the bug. He's catching the bug.
Yeah, well, I think it is catching, isn't it? You know, you think they spent £450 million in the summer. You said Spend is Arne Slot's friend last week, didn't you? You were suggesting
in terms of losing his job over it, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult for them to make a change after all of the changes that they'd made to the playing squad. And there are some caveats, and you must remember the sort of tragedy that they've befallen as well over the course of the season. But there is going to be a point where everybody starts to go, hold on a second, how long can this go on for?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm not wanting to be unkind, but if your memory of your friend that you've tragically lost is to play poorly, rather than to respond to the memory of him by wanting to be so magnificent in your response, I find that a curious response, and often the way that football confects outcomes to give excuses. Liverpool bought a lot of players that weren't privy to that tragedy, weren't privy to that player. None of those players seem to particularly hit the ground running. And then whether that's a setup, other players seem to be off it.
But is that because grief hits in different ways and you cannot understand that? We will never understand that. But also coming into a dressing room after that tragedy must be pretty difficult, no matter how good and talented and how,
Yeah, we can give that. I mean, I'm very loath, because I don't know the psyche of the players. I don't know the spirit of the dressing room. Obviously, we saw Andy Robertson talk about, in a moment of great achievement for Scotland and a moment of great achievement, what it meant to him and how he thought about his friends. We're now talking about a group of players that apparently aren't having great achievements and are dwelling on the situation rather than Andy Robertson using it to galvanise his emotions towards Scotland's success of qualifying for a World Cup. Look, the bottom line is Liverpool started the season with 5 games that they won. They weren't great. They weren't great, but they won. And they don't have to be. You don't have to be great to win games. You just have to win them, because you've got a methodology to win games. They seem to have lost that methodology. They're getting taken to task by sides. I mean, nobody saw, last week to go to the PSV game, nobody saw Liverpool's collapse in the second half the way that it came about. They thought Liverpool were going to go on and win the game.
It was really bad.
Yeah, it was poor, and they've got to get themselves together. I don't know. It's an easy go-to situation. We don't really know that much about Slot last year because he picked up a side that was in really decent nick with a really good group of players. Didn't have to change anything, just have to point it in the right direction and maybe sophisticate some of the heavy metal stuff or heavy whatever terminology was for Jurgen Klopp's football. And away they went. They weren't challenged in the league in quite the way that previous Liverpool sides have been challenged because Man City declined. You know, United were nowhere to be seen. Arsenal were still finding themselves as a team that can actually win a league. So with all that in mind, he's been forced into circumstances where Diaz
just be forced into circumstances because they changed the style of play. They were controlled and composed last year, and they had everybody strangled. But this year, he wanted more chances because he didn't think they won enough games by enough goals. So they've gone on the front foot, and that's left them open.
Yeah, I mean, people will ask about the idea of why they bought Isak and Ekatike. You know, and then people start talking about Nunes. I mean, I've heard people start to rewrite history. Nunes was a waste of time, and all of a sudden, people are suggesting that they're missing him. I mean, they couldn't get him out the door fast enough. People couldn't criticise him more last season, and all of a sudden, because he's not there, he's the reason potentially why Liverpool aren't operating at a level. I mean, Nunes couldn't hit a cow's backside with a banjo at times.
03717223344. What are your views? If you're a Liverpool fan, has the identity changed? Why has the identity changed? How do you get the identity back? How do you get the fortress Anfield back? Right, let's get to some Liverpool calls. Start with Stephen. Hello.
Hello, Steve. Sorry, hello, Matt and Simon. Big show, by the way.
Nice to see you. You all right? What do you want to say?
To be honest with you, I was making notes last night watching Liverpool's Sunderland game, and my pen ran out, I think. And the main point you want to watch, if you've got kids and they can't go to sleep overnight, watch that first half of that game last night. That was shocking. Absolutely shocking. I was shouting at the telly. Van Dijk, all the back forward, and even Alisson passing the ball sideways and backwards. That was 45 minutes wasted. And then you got Van Dijk does a panic ball to the Sunderland lad. He shoots, and Van Dijk turns his back. I'm sorry, Virgil. There's lads playing on Birkenhead Park every Sunday. They'll take one in the nuts for that. Never mind being on 350 grand a week. That's shocking. And it's not the first time he's done that this season either. But the main point you want to make, fellas, is the faking of injuries by the Sunderland players, rolling around like they're being shot. Obviously, so blatantly faking injuries and even holding their heads when they haven't even been touched with any part of the body, especially the head. And that's why my pen started to run out, I think, making notes about the time.
Steve, of all the things that you took notes of last night about that performance and of all the concerns that you've got, that surely isn't top of your list, fella.
No, I know, Sam, it's not top of my list, but what I want to know is all these overpaid pundits on the telly who are watching the same football as me, nobody ever mentions it. It gets mentioned occasionally by Simon, I believe. But no, it's not my main point, but it's spoiling football, Sam. And my main point is Arne Slot wasted 45 minutes there, that game. And then he only started playing when he went 1-0 down. And at one point, Andy Robinson went to take a throw in, and he shrugged his shoulders. The players are not running into space. Something's wrong there, and a Slot. I want him to stay, I want him to turn around, but something's got to change. I connect Tiki up front, and just show them the game. Say this is unacceptable. I mean, there's no urgency there at all.
That is a concern, isn't it? The urgency, Stephen. Thank you very much for calling. Appreciate that.